And we're live. What's going on, folks? Sean here, Hammerhead Garage. How's everybody doing? Another Sunday night, another opportunity to spread our joy of the hot rod lifestyle around. Just enjoying a nice cup of coffee here. Cheers, everybody. Sunday night. I got a fire going, but I don't really need it. Um, it's showing 23 degrees Celsius in the house, and it's showing plus 4 degrees Celsius outside. So it's been pretty warm. I'm kind of loving that. Um, in any case, I just got off the live stream with Dr. Art's Hot Rod Rehab. That was great. Thanks, guys. It was nice meeting his wife as well. She's a hoot. She seems like a riot. So that was really cool. We talked about their plans. She wants to go racing and some other things. And go check out their channel, guys. I'll put a link in the description after the video's over. There's Admiral Sandwich in the house. Good evening, sir. Good day, good day. How's things going today, Will? Oh, that's mighty good. Anyway, not much happening. This week I was kind of doing some stuff around the yard. I had to build a garden box for my wife, and get ready for the spring cleaning. There's a bunch of trash and stuff that has to be hauled out to the curb here. So I've been busy doing that. I was working on a four-wheeler as well. You guys probably seen my video, the brute force videos I did. I've been working on that machine, trying to get it up to snuff. I'm still waiting on parts. That seems to be my life recently, and since this beer bug showed up, parts are harder to get. But the garden fiasco, yes, sir. Yeah, definitely the garden fiasco. She went out and bought a bunch of seeds, so I had to get this other box. We've got 3 garden boxes already, so I had to build one. And I'm a great carpenter. I couldn't screw 2 boards together hardly, let alone design a box. But that being said, I managed to do it, but not without injury. I ended up putting a friggin' screw through my thumb. I don't know if that shows up at the edge of my thumb there, but I ended up putting a screw through it. Yeah, but anyway, I bled like a stuck pig. Hey, this guy's garage. What's going on, my man? Nice having you here. We got internet royalty in the house tonight. What's going on here? What were you saying? Start the seeds indoors. Yeah, we started a bunch of the slower growing variety here, tomatoes and all that sort of jazz indoors, because we have such a short growing season here in Nova Scotia that you basically have to get a head start. So anyway, I've been doing those kind of things. I've also been doing today I did a little body work on the truck. I did something kind of stupid. I'll have to admit to it here. You guys know those ramps that you tentatively drive your vehicle up on in order to work on? Well, they're quite safe, but whenever you're trying to put your powerful clutch driven vehicle up onto them, if you don't have somebody outside sometimes to guide you, you can get off kilter. So what I ended up doing was going right up over the damn things, and they were stuck under my truck for a good 10 minutes. No damage, but I feel kind of stupid about it. But in any case, I was just doing a little bit of body work there today. I see a couple spots on the driver's side fender that are iffy. So I've got another fender with good metal. I'm going to cut those pieces out, and then I'm going to stitch weld them in, and I'll have some videos on that. Not that I'm an expert at stitch welding body panels on there, but I'm going to give you my honest, feeble attempts at doing that type of work. But anyway, yeah. So it was kind of a jar, because I went from hero to zero in like 2.7 seconds. I kind of felt like I was rolling over them, so I tried putting the truck in reverse and giving her the beans to get off of it, but no dice. I'm not on pavement here. I've got a dirt driveway, so it just kind of dug. It spun, right? But anyway, that being said, boys, I had the truck down in Mexico earlier this week, and I made a couple of real raunchy pulls with it. I'll tell you what, she gets out of her own way nicely. That's all I'm going to say about that. The truck is, yeah. So I don't know, boys. I don't think I'm going to put the turbo in right away. I know I promised you guys forced induction, but I think I'm going to hang off on that just for the simple reason. Now, hear me out. The simple reason that I think I better address the suspension, the brakes, and the rear end first before I do that. It's got enough power. So much so that when I was in fourth gear and I was right to the floor, the truck was actually finding its way. You know what I mean? Kind of moving around. You know how when you get going really fast, like over 100, they kind of like. So I kind of want to, not that I'm scared of it, but I kind of want to address some of the weaker things on it first. And I did a calculation based on my vehicle weight and all that, and my power to weight ratio was about 7.2, boys. So that's pretty fair. I don't know. I don't have a draggy yet. I might pick one of those up and see it. I'm old school. I only have a flip phone. I don't have an iPhone, or an Android phone with data, so I can't use the draggy. But, and a big but, the wife has got a brand new Galaxy, a Samsung, and she's agreed to let me put the draggy app on her phone and use that to get some data. So I think we're going to do that. I think we're going to, how many miles do you have with the new heads? I'm right about 300, roughly 300, 350. And, but I haven't, this is the first time I've had a chance to really get on it since I put the new heads on. And, yeah, what a difference, buddy. What a difference. Sean's saying, I love Mexico. Yeah, Mexico's pretty cool. It's a little sketchy though, Sean, this time of year because of all the loose gravel and road salt and all that other garbage that's still on the road. So I got to kind of like use my brain a little bit, which is hard enough on a good day. That would have made a great thumbnail. I never even thought of that. Actually, you're probably right. That would have been a good thumbnail. But anyway, I'm going to address the rear end first. As you guys know, I'm not overly excited about what I found in that Explorer rear end, but no problem. We're going to sort that out. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try some gears in the thing. The truck goes like stink now and it doesn't have any gear in it. So I'm going to try putting some gear in it and maybe set of 410s and just see what kind of reaction it has to it. I'll keep all the other gears. And I'm not saying I'm not going to turbo it. I'm not going to sell all the stuff. I'm going to keep adding to the horde, the turbo horde, keep adding parts as they come along. But for now, I'm going to take care of the stuff that I should have taken care of, to be completely honest, in the first carnation of this truck when I put the V8 in it. Because you got to remember, the original engine was a 2.3 liter, 94 horsepower mill. And the suspension and the steering and the brakes and everything are set up for that potential, for that, plus or minus 25%, right? But when you put even a stock 302 V8 in it, you're up in the horsepower a substantial amount. Mind you, that first engine I had was pretty weak, but this one's not. So I probably, like quadrupled or tripled the horsepower at least. But anyway, yeah, 410s are going to actually send that thing into overdrive, I think. Yeah, I think it's going to be the answer, because I think if you guys remember, I had a video before called, what was it called? Less shaky or something like that. Anyway, I mentioned where it didn't have quite enough gear. Is that if you rev the thing up much over 3,000 and slip the clutch to let it out, it spins like crazy. Right. And then it's like immediately to second gear. Right. So I'm going to try and leave it a lower RPM with a little better gear maybe, and try and dig my way out. And I think the truck with my setup, based on my cam profile, the heads that I'm running, the intake induction that I have, my exhaust, I think that it would benefit 410 gears would really kick that thing in the butt hard. I knew a guy back in the 80s, and Sean, you probably got a few stories about this. Guys that had like mediocre type small block engines, and they put a pile of gear in them, and the things, they always, the old saying for old school stuff was gear it till they fear it, right? But I mean, there's a limit of what you can get out of it, and it's all up to your whole total combination more so than any of the other parts. But we'll try the gears. The 10-inch brakes on the 8.8 is going to be an upgrade. I'm going to upgrade the shocks. I'm going to replace all those worn out bushings. I'm going to just tighten up the screws. You know what I mean? Put a drive shaft safety loop in it. Put a new harmonic balancer on it that's for higher RPM, because with the 410 gears, you got to appreciate, boys, that the thing's going to rev more. Obviously, we're going to get more revs out of it. Yeah, now you got to get to keep the side pipes longer. You know what, Will? When I was first deciding to put those on, I was trying to find a set that were longer, but I couldn't figure out a way to get them to tuck up further towards the front wheel and still come out where I wanted them. Now, that's probably just me being a shitty fabricator, but I do like the side pipes. A lot of people hate them, but it's my truck, so it's the way I look at it is whatever, right? What's Art saying? Do you want to add the rear disc brakes? No, I'm not really. There's nothing wrong with disc brakes, and I'm not planning on driving the truck in the salt or in the winter anymore, but drum brakes work just fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with a good set of drums if they're set up properly, and you adjust them. They're quite fine. My Chevelle, Art, I was telling you about my 71, it had 4-wheel drum brakes, and I used to routinely get that thing up over 100 miles an hour, and it was no problem to stop the thing. But just some upgrades, boys, some better shocks, better bushings, maybe a rear sway bar, just stiffen up the chassis a little bit, just make it a little safer, right? I might upgrade the front rotors to a ventilated style, a little better pads in it. The brake calipers actually that are on them Rangers are pretty good. It's a pretty nice setup. I have no interest in going to like a Mustang 2 front end or anything like that. That just adds a lot of money to the whole project. And to be completely honest, the independent suspension, the I-beam, twin I-beam suspension that's on it now, it works quite well, right? Ford really did. They didn't drop the ball on that at all. They ran that in a lot of different vehicles for a lot of years, and it worked really, really well, right? Leaf springs, well, there's lots of cars that are running really super quick times with leaf springs, so that's just a matter of getting the wheel hop out of it and some tuning. Detroit Axon eBay makes a good upgrade package for cheaple. Yeah, okay, I'll check into that for sure. Sometimes it's hard to find bits for that. Hey, we have Mr. Nick in the house. Hey, Nick, how you doing, buddy? Glad you could come on and jump in here. Nice to see you. What's Will saying? Twin I-beam. Yeah, the twin I-beam was made for years. My old 79 F100 had it. I think they started that twin I-beam setup back in the 60s, if I remember correctly. It was like mid to late 60s. And they had it, in a lot of different models. And it seemed to always get the thing done. Like, it always seemed to work. There are advantages, though, to having a coil spring Mustang 2 style front end, too. There's not much that you can't do with that, right? They make a lot of different coil spring and shock setups for those front ends as well, because they were in a lot of different production cars, not only Fox bodies, but they were in Mustang 2s. They were in a lot of different, and including, I think, if you get an aftermarket race type setup for a modern Mustang or whatever, it's basically loosely based off of the Mustang 2 style front end. But it works. I'm kind of like Nick in that regard. I like the old school stuff. The way I look at it is, why fix it if it's not broken? The old stuff did the business, and it continues to do the business. So there's no real reason to change something that works. And I mean, let's face it. I mean, we're not going to be dealing with a ton of horsepower. We're just going to be dealing with like a regular amount of power. Hello to everyone. Thanks, Nick. So we're just going to be dealing with regular street horsepower. And I was reading some articles today, boys, and I thought it was pretty comical what I was reading. As you guys know, there's a lot of stuff on the internet. Some of it's BS. Some of it's actually pretty cool, pretty smart. And one of the articles I read was how much horsepower is enough. And then it was basing a whole bunch of different street, like the modern Hellcats and the modern parameters. And I think for me personally, it depends on what the vehicle is going to be used for. That's the underlying thing. I think 400 horsepower is probably just more than enough. 300 horsepower is probably more than enough. It just depends on what you're going to use the vehicle for. If it's there's a difference between a street-driven vehicle and an all-out track type car. And then there's guys like Sean and I, which say that, you know, it's never enough. That's true. I mean, that's the spirit of hot rodding for sure. You want to go faster. But there is a limit. Modern cars that take care of things like timing control and fuel trim and like the 500 horsepower Roush Mustangs and stuff like that, you can get away with more power. But also remember too, guys, that the vehicle weight of these modern rigs is quite heavy. They're not super, super light. You know, so it depends on what you're going to use the thing for. The way I look at it is if you can make the thing reliable so that you can get in it, it starts easy. You can idle in traffic. You can idle on a hot day without it overheating. And when you hit the go pedal, it moves on out. And if you got a smile on your face, you probably have enough power. And there's some folks that, you know, they've never even driven a 200 horsepower car, let alone something with 300 or 400 or 500 horsepower. And, you know, it's a lot of power. I mean, it really is, right? And it's hard to explain unless you've experienced it. I've been in some pretty hot cars. I've never really owned anything that was like over 400 horsepower, but I've been in some pretty hot ones that friends had over the years. We had a buddy there back in 95. He had a 700 horse plus Chevelle, big block Chevelle. And I was a passenger in that thing a few times. And let me tell you, from hero to zero in 3.7 seconds, the thing can get away from you in a hurry, right? I think, like, for me personally, if you build it yourself, it's cool. It doesn't matter what kind of power it's making. If as long as you get in it and drive it and enjoy it, that's all that really matters to me, right? It's cool to have the numbers and all that other stuff, but at the end of the day, it's miles per gallon, not miles per gallon. I was saying that to somebody I was talking to this week. They were dynoing a Windsor 408 stroker motor, and it was a nice piece. It had a quick fuel carburetor. I think it was running a Victor Jr. type intake, trick flow 11R heads, highly ported, about 11.5 to 1 compression. I think it made around 630 horsepower at the flywheel. It was a nice piece, but they were saying how many trips to the gas station would be required for something like that. And I just had to smile. That's when I made that comment. It's miles per gallon, not miles per gallon, right? But what's Sean saying here? Today, it's not a matter of making horsepower. It's a bigger thing to hold it together and make it reliable. Yeah. And especially if you enter into the realm, a street-driven vehicle versus a strictly track-driven vehicle. Now, I know there's a lot of guys that say street strip. I've had a few of those cars, but in my experience, it doesn't work out real well. You're usually taking something from column A and putting it over in column B when you really need more A. You know what I mean? It's kind of a poor way of explaining it, but there's trade-offs in everything, boys, especially when it comes to muscle cars and vehicles and anything, any type of machine. Motorcycles are the same way, you know. But anyway, yeah, it's cool. And it's about what you can afford. I mean, I don't think you should ever go into hawk for something that, you know, that you could easily save up for. What I saw earlier this week was a guy who put an LS top end onto a 351 Windsor short block. Yeah, I heard about that. I've never actually seen that. But what was it, Will? It was 351 Windsor block, piston crank rods. And what did he have, like those Vortex style, LS style heads on it? Or was it like an aftermarket deal? Dr. Arts Rehab. He made 10 plus, then it grenaded. Well, you know, guys, that's why a lot of the times they've gone to 8th mile racing. It's not because they're scared, the guys that drive. It's just because a lot of the engines built for drag racing tend to blow up down at the big end of the track. So they figured, let's make it safer. We don't maybe have a facility that's got all the room for quarter miles. So let's just have an 8th mile with a safe runoff, and that way guys can gear their cars to get going good and have some fun competitive racing without blowing up your engine. They still blow them up in the 8th mile though. What's Will saying here? A 317 head, yeah. That's like a typical LS aftermarket head, isn't it? Or is that a factory GM? I'm not up on my LS engines. And Sean, the man, is saying it's hard to serve two masters. That's right. It is. You have to pick one and roll with it. Forced induction is good in the sense that it allows you to have a little of both worlds with some reliability, right? The guy took it to 27 pounds and blew a hole through the block. Ooh, that would be expensive and non-fun. Factory GM. Okay, so those 306 head or 317 heads are factory GM heads. Okay. Same junk you find at a wrecker, right? GMT Gear HDs is the YouTube channel that did. Okay, yeah. I'll have to check that out later. I'm always interested in engines like Clevors. You guys know what those are. Like it's a Windsor-based engine block and short block with Cleveland style heads on it. And all types of oddities with engines. I'm interested in that. But to be completely honest, you're better off in the beginning stages anyway, not building those crazy setups. You're better off with the tried and true, proven. I myself, I'm not really interested in LS stuff. I'm not really interested in modern modular type motors, really. I like pushrod V8s, the old proven style, right? That's just me. Everyone's different. Not that there's anything wrong with any of them things. If that's your bag, that's your bag, right? But I like the old school stuff. Always will. Yeah, I guess the hot setup for those things, from what I've heard, is you go to the junkyard, you get a 5.3 or a 6 liter out of let's say a GMC truck that's got like 180,000 miles on it or kilometers or whatever, and then you throw a bunch of boost to it and have a bunch of fun with it until it explodes. Seems to be the deal. Yeah, junkyard parts, not rebuild. But anyway, yeah, so I think for me, like with the Ranger, it's a daily driver. I drive it every day. I drive it in the wet too. So I want to make it reliable. I want to make it safe. So I think it's wise at this point to upgrade the brakes, do a little bit of suspension work, put the 8.8 in there, maybe try a taller gear. I think personally the thing would be a monster with 410s. It likes to rev now since I put the new heads on it. So I think the 410s are actually going to accentuate that the love of the revs. Just as long as I keep an eye on the tack when I'm really into it. I punched it going up the hill the other day and I put it right to the floor in third gear, and I looked down at the vacuum gauge and it said 0. So that tells me that I don't have very much restriction in the intake at all. So that's good. I've got a 6.5 power valve in the primary side. I probably could put a 7.5 in there, I'm thinking, but the plugs are telling me that everything's copacetic. It's not running too rich or too lean, so I think I'll just leave it. And of course, it depends on the day too, fellas. Like, if the humidity level is higher one day or the air density is higher or lower one day to the next, your tune's going to change on a carburetor. You're going to get richer or leaner anyway, a certain amount, right? That's my thing with the Ford modular engines, is there's no comparability to it. You can't take that 5.0 head and put it on a 4.6. Yeah. LS starter kit, stage 2 cam, pack springs, decapped injectors, eBay turbo, 700 horsepower. Yeah, and that's exactly why guys do them, probably, Art. Oh, right on, Sean. Well, thanks for coming in, my man. I appreciate that very much. That's cool of you. I'll talk to you soon. I might be able to get on for a few minutes. I know you're having a live stream tonight too. So you guys, if you're up later tonight for whatever reason, jump over to Sean, this guy's garage. They're having a live stream with some guests on there tonight. So that'd be cool to go see for sure. But anyway, yeah, so it's funny how you get brought back to reality sometimes. Like, I had visions of grandeur in my head when I was going to be, I'm going to throw a turbo on this thing right away, and I'm going to like make tons of power, which I probably would have, right? But without thinking about the things that I ought to have done to the truck when I put the hot engine in it, like the brakes and the suspension. And it's not to the point where it's unsafe or anything. It's just that more is more. So I'm dealing with a lot more power now, and it's time to do some upgrades. That 7.5, that poor 7.5 open diff rear end, that's the reason I haven't done many burnouts, is because I'm scared that I'm going to blow the ring and pinion gear right out of the front of it, right? Or the back of it. So I want to upgrade that. I haven't, like I said, the truck has no gear in it at all. It's 342, like, that's fine for highway driving, or boost to be good, but for NA, I think it would definitely benefit for some gear. 373s, 410s, something like that. I wouldn't go any higher than that on a stock, or like, not stock, but you know what I mean, like to keep things streetable. Sean from this guy's garage has a pretty hot 4.6. I don't know if you've seen his channel, Will, but go on there. He's got a 4.6 actually that was in Hot Rod Magazine, believe it or not. It was in an engine shootout. And if you can find the Hot Rod Magazine from eBay, you can read all about it in there. And he's got that engine in one of his Mustangs. He's got a build-up series on it too, and they're putting it together. It had a supercharger on it, but I think he's just going NA right now. Yeah, it's got the trick flow heads on it and a bunch of goodies. I think he's talking about putting the blower back on it. He had it to the chassis dyno in Moncton, New Brunswick this summer, and I think it made 280 or 285 or 290 at the wheels. He figures it should be quite a bit more than that, because it's not stock. It's a fairly warm engine. But anyway, I hope everybody's having a good weekend. I hope you did some things and got outdoors, and you're not letting this COVID thing get you down too much. And I'm just trying to keep myself busy. This time of year, it starts to get busier and busier for me as the summer comes on, because people forget they even have a motorcycle until they see them out on the road. So all of a sudden, there's 1,000 appointments for people that want this bike service done, and you can only do so many at a time. So, and we're having a problem getting parts in on time. They seem to be delayed quite a bit. I think Suzuki is about 4 or 5 weeks, and Yamaha parts were about 6 weeks last time I checked, behind on our parts orders. They're just not coming through for some reason. Maybe Nick, probably you might be experiencing some problems getting parts with some of your stuff. Although I think you get a lot of your parts from your brother, don't you? Like locally. which would be a cool idea if you can do that. I love the 4.64 valve on my old 98 Cobra. Yeah, they're good engines. There's nothing wrong with the modular. I'm an old school guy, and I like push rod motors. Since I'm Biden's state, it's possible to get the vaccine. Yeah. Anyway, if you guys saw Nick's video there where he was dynoing that 340, and I had made a guess of 410 horsepower, and it looks like I was 9 off, but he was struggling to get it up over 400. I think, what was it, 485 or 495, and he just couldn't get that last little bit. And the customer didn't want to put a spacer on it, or didn't have the hood clearance to do it. So Nick was scratching his head, but he finally figured it out. And that's what I love about his channel and about his engine dyno stuff, is he stays with it and stays with it. And the guy has got so much knowledge about this stuff that he knows what has worked in the past, and he can figure out ways to make it work, right? So I forget what he ended up doing. He did some shims to the valve springs or something, and got the seat pressure up on them, or open pressure up on them, and he picked up some horsepower. And I think he ended up with 401, which is really cool. But I think he's got a 440 on the dyno on Monday. He's got another 440 in there. He's just a wizard with those motors. He knows them inside and out, right? He's kind of like me. He's old school. He likes that old school stuff, right? And I'm wondering if he's got his Kowalski U-Code Challenger out or not. It's probably, Quebec's probably the same as it is in Nova Scotia. There's still a lot of dirt and stuff on the road, so maybe he's waiting until the streets clean up. Usually in the spring we get, I don't know, a couple weeks worth of rain, and it cleans all the gunk off the streets, and then it's a lot easier to get your hot rods back out. So he's probably waiting for that. I don't blame him at all. But anyway, yeah. So what other things you guys got going on? Like some other projects there? You know, Dr. Art, when I was on his live stream there, we were talking about his cars, and he put 100 shot of nitrous on the Ranger. So I'm betting you're going to probably end up seeing that truck in the 11s, would be my guess, with 100 shot. That's quite a bit. I mean, really. Like you were saying, it's not neck snapping, but it's a fair amount on the big end. I'm pretty sure. I don't know what gear you're running in that, but yeah, you'll probably get that thing in the 11s for sure. And he's got a really cool a turbocharged Falcon. That's an awesome car. Do you have any plans to take that one to the track at some point, or what do you plan on doing with that one? That would be nice. Yeah. I'm probably getting a lag or something here. My internet connection's not the best at times, but I'm probably getting a little bit of lag. If I am, I apologize. Just stick with me. Been thinking of getting a bigger truck. Like what kind of bigger? Like mud tires, or like just like an F-250 or something? What do you have now? So yeah, what I was doing, like just doing some light body work. Oh, you were thinking about a Ranger, were you? Attaboy. Later body style from yours. What, like in the 90s? Like where they're a little more rounded, not quite like a shoebox. Ranger, right on. What's Art saying? If I took the Falcon to the track, it might fall apart. I built it myself. I'm sure it'd be just fine, buddy. You should just take it out just for like a testing tune night, just for fun. She has been all right, but I just missed the bigger full-size truck. Yeah. Well, there's a place for the larger trucks, you know. And I was watching some videos this week of some pretty cool old F100s, like the one I had. I had a 79 that had some pretty beefy power. Like one of them was turbo, and the other one was an all motor. It was like a 418 Windsor or something like that. The thing just screamed, man. It was fast as can be. What I have now is a 2011 Ranger. Yeah, right. Is it a 4-liter, like a V6 in that one? '97 Ranger, easy V8 swap. 98 and up gets more entailed. Yeah, I think that's largely to do with the wiring involved, is it not? I don't think it's space. I think it's just there's computer stuff. 4-cylinder 2.3. That's what my truck had in it originally, Will. I think they made a grand total of 94 horsepower or something to that effect. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I remember them being a dog. Like you're almost like scared to merge out onto the interstate or onto the highway with it because you didn't know if you're going to get up to speed quick enough or have enough power to merge safely. There's no problem with my truck now with that. You know, third gear is just terrifying. You just get it once you get it up over 5,000 RPM. Like, holy Hannah, hang on, man, you're moving. Yeah, I don't know what gears they came with. Not sure what the rest gear is, but it's yeah. So that's the thing. Like a lot of trucks nowadays, they have higher gears in them. I mean, for highway and economy and stuff, right? But if the truck's got really low horsepower or really low power, it might benefit from shorter gears, right? But I don't know. It just depends, I guess. I know, like, you guys remember the Chevettes? Did you have them in the States? It's like the little tiny square box with a little 4-cylinder. Well, they had a 411 gear in the back of them from the factory, a lot of them. So that's how they offset the low horsepower is they just put some more gear in it to get the revs up. So you get some power out of it. Won't go above 90, Will saying here. Yeah. But yeah, is 90 miles an hour is that's fast enough, right? In a Ranger. That and Rangers are an absolute tin can. Yes, they are, sir. Absolutely correct. 100%. Oh, mine. Every time I shut the door on it, it sounds like a Molson Canadian beer can. Every time I shut the door, it's tinny. But if you shut the door at an old Challenger, an old Dodge or whatever, it's clunk. You know, or an old Chev. Like we had a '66 Caprice 2-door hardtop when I was 13, I think it was. Dad had it, and you shut the doors in that thing, it's like clunk. You know, it's like one big long door. But they don't make cars like that anymore. They just make them out of recycled pop cans for the most part. And I think a lot of it too is because they have smaller displacement engines that are more environmentally friendly. Like thus all these EcoBoost engines. You get like a 3-liter, 2.5 liter with a turbo in it, and they make incredible power for what they really are. But they're just so bloody thin, and there's so much plastic and stuff on them, right? Not my cup of tea at all. But I mean, like again, I got a hunk of crap out in the driveway with my daily driver. It's a 2008 Hyundai Sonata. And it's got the 16 valve 4-cylinder and automatic, and it's a piece of crap, but I mean, it works, it runs decent, and I don't have the heart to kill it. It's got like, what does it have on it now? Like 287,000 kilometers on it or something. And that's my daily. That's what I drive around when I'm not driving my truck, or in the wintertime, I drive that. I don't care about it. I mean, I change the oil and filter, but I don't do anything to it. What's Will saying? My 97 Ram 1500 was my first truck, and it was a clunk. Then it was a squeak. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But anyway, yeah. See, you're a young guy, though, Will. Like, back when I was your age, like, my first car was a 71 Chevelle Malibu. So it's quite a difference, right? And when you shut the doors in the old Chevelle, of course, they called it the heavy Chevy. It would clunk. Like, body by Fisher, right? It was made body by Fisher. They were pretty good cars. When I bought it, though, like I think I told you guys the story before, it had a 307 that was only running on 7 cylinders. The reason I know that is because I took the exhaust off, and I just had the bare head in the shop, and I fired it up, and there was number 7 wasn't firing at all. there was no blue flame coming out of the exhaust port at all. So that cylinder was completely dead. So I yarded that whole engine out of there, and I put a 350 in it, and I put camel hump heads out of a 67 Corvette 327 on it. And I think I had a 480 lift comp cam in it and some other stuff. But it had a 308 rear gear and a power glide, a 2-speed power glide. And if I had known better, I would have kept the power glide in there and just put a lot of gear in it. And it probably would have been a lot quicker. It's Dr. Arts saying here. My first car was a 68 Galaxy XL convertible. Classy. Right on, man. What was in the Galaxy for an engine? Yeah, that's the shame. That's the shame of it, Will. Now those cars are more than a house sometimes. I remember my neighbor when I was growing up. I'd say when I was about 9 years old, back in the late 70s, he had a 1968 Dodge Charger, 2-door with a 318 in it, and I think he said he paid $1,500 for it back then. Nobody wanted them because they were gas guzzlers. And if he had kept that car, I mean, it wasn't an RT or anything, but still, any Dodge Charger of that era or Challenger, they're worth a pile of money, big time, right? Yeah, it had what did he say? It has a 390 and a 2-barrel. Yeah, they're a good motor. The FE engine seemed to be pretty good, pretty tough. I think I was telling you, Art, my uncle had he had a 60, what year was it? 63 or 64 Comet Caliente that had a 390 high performance with a 4-speed in it. And it was a pretty quick car for the day. There wasn't a lot of body weight on that Comet, the Caliente. It was pretty light car, and you put a fair amount of power like that through it. It would get out of its own way quite nicely. And my uncles and stuff, and my father used to they used to taunt the police with it. In the summertime, they used to get a bunch of rookie police that didn't know the back roads or anything, so they go rolling through town right slow, really slow, and then go by the cops and light her up, just let her spin the tires like crazy. And the cops would chase them, and they go, the lights on the siren, they go wailing out of town. And then all of a sudden, my uncle, I think it was usually Wayne at the wheel, he turned into a little road that he knew about and shut everything off, and the cops would go screaming on by. And they'd laugh, and they'd laugh, and they'd laugh, and they'd laugh. And then not even 40 minutes later, they'd go sneaking back into town again, and they'd go cruising right by the cops right slow, and the light her up and off again, right? And that's how they used to have fun, back in those days, right? That would have been a riot. I would have loved to have been old enough to be part of that back then. Talked about this last stream, the Chargers being arms and legs. Yeah, it's just the internet's got a lot to do with that. In Nova Scotia here, everybody thinks they have a Barrett Jackson car. Like, they watch Barrett Jackson and they think because they have the same body style car that it's worth 130 grand. It's just not, right? You wouldn't believe the prices in the local marketplace in Kijiji here for cars in Nova Scotia. So it's like one guy, I was tempted to call him up and say, have you lost your mind completely? You know, like they're asking like 40, 50, 60, $70,000 for some of these cars, right? And granted, some of them are nice, but they're not 70 grand nice, right? That the $70,000 car would probably on a good day be worth about 35, right? But anyway, they're out of my price range is all I know, right? Um, what's Hart saying here? Oh, well, 390 doesn't get enough love. Yeah, they do make good power, and they can be modified to make even more horsepower. The 335 engine series gets all the credit, you know, like, but you know, 460 is a great motor, a great Ford pushrod motor, but if they're heavy, like they're really heavy engines, right? They're monster motors. Or it's saying tire fryer. Yeah, that's probably in regards to that Comet Caliente I was telling you about. Yeah, that thing, it was a pretty stout little car for 1964 or 63. There wasn't that much around at that time. Maybe a Corvette that would take it. It was pretty quick. But I mean, again, you're talking 60s and 70s quick versus 2020s, you know, 2000s quick. They're not the same, right? I don't know if a lot of you guys haven't been around long enough to know, but the speed of cars, especially street racing type cars, has gone up tremendously. It used to be once upon a time where 300 or 400 horsepower, you really had something. Nowadays, you're not even competitive street racing unless you got 600 or more, you know, or 500 or 600 under the hood, right? But it isn't about power, and I guess that gets back to my original part of this video, is it's not always about horsepower. It's about traction. It's about a lot of different things, right? There's been guys that have had like 300 horsepower Mustangs that have beat 600 and 700 horsepower Chevelles and Dodges and everything else because they're just sitting there burning the tires off the thing in the first 2 gears while the guy in the Mustang's gone down the road. You know, they might get them on the big end, but on the street, there's a limit to how much power you can put down because you're running radial tires. And the roads are dirty, and there's a limit to how much power you can put down. So I really don't see any point in putting gobs and gobs of horsepower into a street-driven car. That's Will saying here. 427 FE is the best pushrod engine Ford made. Yeah, they're pretty darn good, I have to admit. And pretty rare, too. The 80s, a 14-second street car. Yeah, man, that was hella fast. Hella fast. If you had a 14-second street car back in the 80s, you were the shit. Like, we're talking Fox body Mustangs, we're talking IROC Z Camaros, like back in that era. You know, that was, you had a pretty quick car. I remember one car I'll never forget it. When I had my Chevelle, okay, and I was 16, going on 17 years old. I had my Chevelle, and it was slow. And then a guy I knew had a 1968 Beaumont, which is basically a Pontiac version of the two-door Chevelle. And he had the floor tub out of this thing. He had a 427 Chevrolet big block engine under the hood, and it was making some grunt. And that thing, I don't know what rear gear he had in it, probably like a 513 or something. But that thing was, it'd take the tires right off the ground in first gear. Like, it was a monster. It was probably the quickest car around. It probably ran a steam pretty fast on the high end, but we're talking like University Avenue in Charlottetown, light street racing, right? And there was a lot of that went on right up into the late 90s. You know, I was around for some of that. the Mustang GTs of the 80s and 90s, you know, they were pretty quick street cars. 5 liters, you know, I think the stock 5 liter back then was making 250 horse. But of course, there was upgrades and there was aftermarket parts available even then for the Mustang, right? So, and there was another guy too in Cornwall had a 69 or 68 Firebird, and it had a 400 small block in it. It was a pretty quick car too. I'd say those two are probably the two fastest of my hometown, like my area, back when I was 16, 17, right? Nowadays, you can go right to the Ford dealer and buy a 525 horsepower Mustang, and away you go, right? Or go to a Chrysler dealer and buy a Hellcat, or if you got the money, right? You know, or Challenger SRT8 or whatever those things are. With, you know, get a supercharger for it or whatever. But that didn't used to be the way. If you had a really quick car back then, a lot of guys were, it's because they were working on them constantly, right? They're building them up all the time, right? That was the scene, right? I don't know. I still think my probably favorite top car of all time, if I could have one car or two cars, it would be a 55 Chevy 2-door, or I'd like to have a Ford Thunderbolt 427, right? FE engine. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, well, that's the thing, Art. It was a lot of fun driving slow cars fast. You couldn't hurt yourself. You know, we had a lot of fun back then. You know, it was different then, though, man. Like the whole vibe was different. It just felt different back then, right? And there wasn't cell phones around, and people weren't indoors as much. We were on a Friday, Saturday night, like 2, 3 in the morning. We're out there street racing. We're out there driving our cars hard, parking at the Burger King parking lot or A&W or whatever. We were still doing that, right? Our parents did that stuff back in the 50s. You know what I mean? My dad told me all kinds of stories about that type of thing in the 50s and 60s, right? And he was around for them. I mean, he had his best friend when he was in the Air Force had a 69 Mach 1. I believe it had what was in it? 428. It was a big block Ford. And he said that thing was just first, second gear, just a smoke show. And they used to do that to impress girls. They go driving around Chatham and stuff, and they'd spin the tires like mad through the intersection, right? And that was the thing to do, right? I want my 69 big block Mustang back. Yeah. Just like I want my Chevelle back, buddy. 69 big block Mustang. Right on. That'd be cool. That's what I was just talking about. What was in that one, Art? Yeah, they're cool. The louvers on the back window, and they got that sloped back. My cousin had a 73 Mach 1 that had a 351 Cleveland in it. It was a pretty good car, pretty fast for what it was, very heavy. The 73's got pretty big at that point. It's the same car that was in that Gone in 60 Seconds movie. It was the original one, not the Nicolas Cage. Oh, yeah, that's the one. That's the same car my dad's buddy had. The one they used to go spinning through the intersection, first and second gear. 428 drag pack and a 4-speed. Now, that's a recipe for tire smoke right there, mister. If ever I seen it. Yeah, that'd be a hell of a good car. And they're rare now too. You can find a 69 Mustang Mach 1 in good shape. They demand some pretty big money. Yeah, the 73s don't get as much love. No, they don't. But you know what? I kind of like that body style. I hate to say it. A lot of the Mustang guys don't like those, but I kind of like that body style. And they're really comfortable. Like they had really nice seats and stuff in them, and a really cool interior. I think my cousins had a C6 automatic, and it was like I don't know what gear was in it, like a 355 or something. But it went pretty good for what it was. I had a 69 Mustang coupe with a 4-valve Cleveland and 300 rear gear, 140 plus. I bet that thing would be a highway terror, wouldn't it? 300 rear gear. Oh yeah, 140 miles an hour all day long on that thing. Yeah, Cleveland was a good motor. It was some fine work was made when they made the Cleveland. And surprisingly enough, I know where there's 3 or 4 Cleveland engines complete with the 4-valve heads all original motors that are rebuildable, and I can get my hands on them if I want them. But I don't have anything to put it in. I mean, I suppose you could put it in Fox body or something, but I'd rather have a Comet or a Falcon gasser with the solid Ford drop axle on the front and put something like that in it. And then, a nice top loader, 4-speed or something to bang through the gears, right? Or the other way, I knew a guy had was a Falcon gasser. He had a 289, but the thing was just a screamer. I think it made 400 horsepower, but he used to shift at like 8,000 RPM. It was ridiculous. And he had a big gear in that too. Put it in a tractor, Will's saying. Yeah. I got a 351 Cleveland in my tractor. What's in your tractor? Yeah. Have you noticed my Christmas cup? It's not Christmas, but that's the only one clean. But anyway, yeah. You don't see a lot of cool iron in Nova Scotia much anymore. If there's a car show, sometimes you'll see some the odd thing, because most of them are just big piles of rust, and the other ones are priced so far out of the honest working man's price range that he couldn't afford them. If you lived 2 lifetimes, he'd never be able to afford one of those. But those cars, are some of them around. There's some Mach 1 Mustangs and there's some Chargers. There's a guy who lives about 20 miles from me here, has a 69 Charger RT. It's got a 440 in it. It's a numbers matching car. It's Wimbledon white. It's a white car, but it goes really well. But it costs them like $20 just to go about 20 miles with it, 15 miles. So it's not getting great mileage. Cup is a cup. The contents inside of it is what matters. See, yeah, there you go. See, it's the same as building a hot rod, Will. It's the contents inside what matters, right? Doesn't matter how nice the cup is or how shiny it is or any of that, right? I wonder if I could fit a 351 Cleveland in my Yamaha snowblower. Now, that would be quite the snow machine, wouldn't it? I think at that point I'd have to put a friggin' seat on it in a cab or something. Now we're talking crazy enough. But anyway. Yeah, Dr. Art, just keep doing those lives, man. Awesome. I had fun going on your live stream tonight. It was nice meeting your wife and everything and talking cars and stuff, and that's awesome. Keep doing them, right? We like to get on here on Sunday nights or whatever and do some BS, and that's cool. I got a video coming up next week. I took a little trip in the woods just behind my house here. There's some old wrecked cars way in the trees. So Sean, being what he is, I dug in there and crunched the brush to bring what was in there for you guys to enjoy. So hopefully you guys will like that video. You'll make a snowman with that. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's what it's about anyway. Like, I mean, listen, YouTube numbers don't really matter. The way it was explained best to me was the way Nick says it on his channel. It's a community, not a competition. So we're all in this as part of a community, right? And the numbers don't really make a lot of difference at the end of the day. No one's trying to outdo anybody else. We're just here because we like talking about this shit. We like living this shit. We like doing it. And I like talking about the old days, when things were a lot more fun, right? They seem to be in the hot rod scene. I don't know what you mean. There's still guys that are into it. Thank God. Obviously there is, because there's a pretty big channel or pretty big collection of gearheads on YouTube from what I've seen anyway. And I run into a lot of you dudes on the other channels that you guys watch that I watch. So I know that there's a big following of gearheads, right? And it doesn't matter, Chrysler, Dodge, Ford, whatever. Have fun. That's the only one thing. Try and be original. Try and do it yourself, and try and be as cool as it can be, and have fun with it. And that to me is awesome. I was looking at this guy's channel on YouTube. I think he had 100 and something subscribers. I forget what he was building. It was an 80s Camaro. But he was doing it all himself in his garage, and he wasn't getting any help. And just a young guy. And I went on there and offered him some encouragement because, I mean, it's cool. I think it's cool, right? It doesn't matter that it's not a gazillion horsepower deal. He's having fun. He's learning stuff. And I think that's the greatest thing ever. Myself, it just reminds me of the way I was when I was 16, 17, you know? But I know you guys looking at my hair, you probably think that that was like when the dinosaurs were on the earth, but don't be confused by the white hair. I think I told you guys this before. It's a genetic thing in my family. We start getting gray, some of our family members, when we're 16, 17 years old. So it's not that I'm a gazillion years old, but yeah, it's about having fun. That's all it's about, to me anyway. But anyway, well, we're into her for an hour, boys. So let's say our good nights. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I might actually go over to Sean's channel. And then by then, us old people, it's time for bed. So thanks for coming on, fellas. I appreciate everybody that showed up here tonight. Cool to see Nick on here, and cool to see everybody. I look forward to this on Sundays. And I know you guys like coming on here too, and I'll keep doing it as long as you guys keep showing up. I'll keep coming up with stuff. And as always, I want to see what you're doing. If you guys want my email, make sure you get that. Send me pictures. Art, I did get those pictures of the Thunderbird. Way cool, man. I'm going to use one of them as a screensaver, I think. But anyway, stay cool, stay loose. Thumbs up for War Amps. Stay classy. We'll see you later, boys. Cheers.